How can be the connection between local students and what you will show in the conference? How can be maybe the impact or the connection between them?
It's a good question. We'll be presenting two types of information to the students. One will be how we did it. How did we put together some of the shots in Game of Thrones? We'll be showing our process from very early all the way to completion on some shots. We will have some visual reference that the animators used. The students who are currently going to school here can use these very same techniques themselves. Perhaps not all at once, in one shot, but they can take pieces of this and try it. It certainly is not impossible to do. The biggest challenge in Game of Thrones was not necessarily an individual technique. It was bringing all the techniques together all at once and doing it in a specific schedule. And the other thing that we'll be passing on to the students is some inside stories as to what the experience was like, so they know what their futures will feel like after they've finished in school. Certainly it is difficult for students who are working inside of the relatively clean environment of a classroom to be cast outside into the noisy, difficult world of a production environment. We'll talk a bit about that, and we'll also talk about some of the things that are required for an individual artist to be successful. And then I'll talk specifically about a couple of things which I think they should do, which I think will give them the highest probability of being successful artists in a professional context.
Hola. Ahora son invitados del TEC de Monterrey y está vinculado Centros de Estudio de Canadá. Con la experiencia durante la filmación de la serie, ¿cómo fue la vinculación con las escuelas de Irlanda? Por ejemplo, el laboratorio de sonido que donaron a una escuela de cine para ser usado también por producción. How was the link with the Ireland Film Schools for work during the production of the season? Nowadays, is successful or did you learn something about working with schools during the production?
Do you know, or if there was some connection between the main production, VFX production? Did you have interns of potential students inside the production? Do you know if in the main pipeline were some students that were involved in the production?
We had no students on this production. This was a production that we needed to have all senior artists, experts in their field, in order to hit the condensed schedule that Game of Thrones is.
It is. I've worked on some projects. I was originally working on television projects when I first got in the industry. I did that for 3 years, and then I moved to California in the United States. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. I spent 21 years in California learning all of the skills needed to make a film. Then when I returned to Vancouver, I had many years of production, and still I was barely ready for the challenge of Game of Thrones. So what I want to do is show them the high watermark of a challenge, and we'll talk about the things they can do to make themselves ready for it.
¿Alguien más? Aquí.
Hello. Can you share us about how is the team conformed in the animation section of the production, and also which were the scenes that took you more time to produce?
That's a good question. Game of Thrones, certainly we worked, the question was about animation specifically, and the animation which we worked on for season 8 was that we generated about 99% of all the dragons that you will see. In terms of building that animation team, we had our animation supervisor, Jason Snyman, who ran the entire animation group. He also decided which tools they would use and which tools need to be created. Underneath Jason, we had 2 lead animators. Those lead animators would take Jason's instructions and help the artists turn those into shots. So Jason would say, here's how we're doing it, and here's what we're doing. And then the lead animators help the artists on the floor to get it done. And we had a total of, I keep forgetting, how many animators?
We had about 17 to 20 animators working on the season 8.
And so all of them, we had no animation specialists who worked on just one dragon. Every animator touched every dragon and had to be expert in all of them. And all the dragons move differently. One of them is alive, dead, as Viserion. Rhaegal, who is alive, but the same size as Viserion. But then Drogon, who's 20% bigger and is super massive. Certainly the animators had to have the technical prowess to make these characters look realistic, and it's particularly flying. Everybody knows what a bird looks like. We go outside and we see them every day. And if I were to animate a dragon that looks perfect, you would accept it. And if you make a small mistake in recreating a natural act such as flight, the shot immediately is unsuccessful. So the artists, the animators themselves would work on the shots during the day. They would show their work to their leads. The leads would show it to the animation supervisor. And then the next morning, I would sit with Tyler in a very small theater, and we'd have all the animators present. We wanted them, even if they didn't have a shot to show, they were all present with the leads and the animation supervisor, and we'd look at every animation. And the reason why we had everybody there is so they could hear each other's critique. So we were all learning at the same time, because we had to make 3 dragons, not 17 dragons.
Un poco preguntar, después de 10 años de trabajo, de estar, como dicen, decenas de animadores, gente en la producción, ¿qué pasa cuando llega el final, cuando llega las redes, las críticas de fans? ¿Qué pasa por la mente de los creativos? Y, como segunda pregunta, después de llegar a ese nivel de producción, ¿qué más se puede esperar de ellos para otra serie de televisión?
Okay, after 10 years working hard, how do you feel after, not a breakdown, I hope so, but how do you feel after 10 years working on the same project, and what do you expect for the next one?
For Game of Thrones, I've worked on since season 6, 7, and 8, so it wasn't quite 10 years, but the feeling at the end of this, I mean, it's sort of like being in a boxing match, and I imagine it being in the 10th round, and you're kind of beat up a little bit, so you're kind of hoping maybe it'll be over soon, but once it's over, it is such a challenge, it was such a challenge to get done, and sometimes I think, looking back on it, I mean, we've only really been done season 8 since May 6th or so, so it really hasn't been that long where we haven't been working on it. So for us, for me anyway, it doesn't really feel that it's over quite yet. Plus, we're talking about it quite a bit still with you and some other people. So coming off the project, yes, it's a bit sad. It's a bit kind of a relief that we actually did it. There were times we think, can we actually do this? We did. So there's a big sense of pride in getting it done, to share it with everybody in the world. A sense of pride in our team that we did get it done, but also a sense of loss too, because I don't think there is going to be another show like this to work on. And as far as being a producer, being an artist, I think it's the high watermark for television, and I think it's going to be that high level mark for a long time. So it's it's a little bit sad. I'm not sure what's next, but we'll try.
Disculpa, yo sí quisiera que nos ayudaras con la traducción, por favor.
¿Cómo?
Que nos ayudaras con la traducción entre pregunta
de
y
las
pregunta.
preguntas y respuestas. Muy bien. Si quieres para la siguiente, ya se me fue un poco. ¿Otra pregunta?
Yeah, here. Thank you, guys. I would like to ask you, of all the episodes of the TV show, what was your favorite one and why? Was one you were involved in or not?
On Game of Thrones specifically?
Yes.
I can talk to a couple of things on that. I worked on season 4, 7, and 8. and I have a number of favorites. Certainly the work I did on season 4 was near and dear to my heart, because we did the whites coming out from under the snow, the skeletons, and they attacked Bran, and there was that sword fight. And the reason why that's so close to me was because that sequence was an homage to Ray Harryhausen, and that was the animator who made the Sinbad movies back in the 1960s and Clash of the Titans with the fighting skeletons. Ray Harryhausen was the mentor of Phil Tippett. Phil Tippett was a famous animator who worked on all the original Star Wars movies. I moved to California in 1996 to go work for Phil Tippett, who was my hero. And Phil was my mentor for 14 years. And then I became the second visual effects supervisor under Phil. And so I'm very proud to have worked on an homage to my mentor's mentor. Certainly, it has a meaning to me beyond a technical achievement. And then certainly the survival of season 8 was amazing. So for me, season 8, episode 5, the destruction of King's Landing was amazing. And certainly episode 3, the fight against the whites. And we had animated, 600 whites climbing up onto Drogon's body and attacking him. On a technical level, I thought that was very rewarding for us. And overall, the animation was spectacular this season.
Ok. Bueno, respecto a la producción,
I can't. Oh, there you go.
respecto a la producción, en cuanto a la charla que van a tener con los alumnos del TEC, ¿cuál consejo les darían como producción general para seguir manteniendo esa audiencia a partir de la serie, del fin de la serie, seguirla manteniendo todavía dentro del mismo crew de Game of Thrones? Seguir manteniendo como esa tribu y sacar un poco más de provecho. ¿Van a hablar también sobre eso en la conferencia?
What could be the good tips that you can give to some students that lately will work on series like that? How they can keep their own production team working together, and what kind of tips you can give to some students?
Every show I've worked on, the first 5-6 years that I've worked on film and television, the excitement of working on film and television was motivation. When I got after 10 years, that wasn't enough. The excitement began to pass. We had to find a reason to love what we were doing. And every production had to have its unique call to arms. Last season, when we were working together, we told everybody, this is so exciting. We're working on Game of Thrones, and we're animating dragons, and we're doing an extremely cool sequence. So our call to arms was, we're animating dragons. We did 100 shots last year of dragons. This season, we animated over 410 individual dragons. So to tell everybody, hey, come on, dragons again, is not enough. We had to find a unique call to arms. So one recommendation I can make to students is, as the passion begins to fade, or the initial excitement of having your first job begins to fade, is the beginning of being a professional, where you need to find a way to motivate yourself and those around you for a long career. These aren't empty words. I've lived it. I'm almost 30 years in, and it still works for me today.
Especially on Game of Thrones you always have to make sure to show all of the artists get equal respect. It's a creatively demanding show. It's a mentally demanding show. Some days you have it as an artist, and some days you don't. Some days you produce nothing maybe usable that particular day. To keep your spirits high and to get back on the dragon, I guess, again the next day, and try to do your best.
People should be allowed to fail and live to fight another day. And we, starting as an artist and moving through many departments and moving up to supervision work, I have made an enormous amount of mistakes, and I don't regret any of them. because they brought me to this stage today. If I didn't make all those mistakes, I wouldn't have had half of the successes that were needed to work on a show like Game of Thrones.
¿Otra pregunta?
Mujeres en la industria, is the film and TV industry demanding more women, and is a safe place for women students to work there? Maybe in the American or Canadian context sounds very strange, but in the Mexican culture, it's a boys industry. Si hay lugar en la industria de cine y televisión para que las chicas trabajen, y es un lugar seguro para que busquen empleo en la industria.
Bueno, tengo mi comentario. Bueno, la verdad es que te puedo decir, por ejemplo, en el programa de animación que manejamos, hay más, de hecho, estudiantes pues, femeninas que hombres. Entonces, a mí es una gloria, obviamente, que esta industria se está moviendo hasta pues, más de mujeres. Women in the industry and in the productions, do you can majority it? How many percentage there is? How is inclusion?
We have quite a few women at our studio. I'm trying to think of the percentage. We have some very strong animators, season 7, season 8 as well on our team, very strong animators, major parts of our team. Production side, I would say production side, working with us directly, vast majority women. Very competent and very welcome in our industry. Honestly, if it wasn't for them, especially in our production and the animators in our team, we would have had a big problem getting the show done, that's for sure.
I don't care. It's irrelevant. I've never cared. I've always been attracted to artists, talented people who are able to work in a production environment and survive. Of the 3 best animators I've ever worked with, 2 of them are women. I don't care why, I just care what the image looks like. Certainly, in this current environment, it's a topic. People talk about it a lot. In a creative environment, where to us it is 100% about ability, whether a person's a man or a woman, and who they marry is completely irrelevant. Never cared, I never will.
Muy bien. ¿Otra pregunta? Una última pregunta. Yo creo que estamos bien entonces con eso. Solamente para poner un marco un poquito de la conferencia, dar la gracia a Langara College, que pues fue el contacto para poder tener a Thomas y Tyler aquí hoy en la noche. Y bueno, lo hacemos como producción, la Escuela de Arquitectura, Arte y Diseño del TEC de Monterrey, Be-Live Media y pues el Conjunto de Artes Escénicas aquí en el recinto. Muchas gracias y bueno, cualquier detalle aquí estamos a la orden y ojalá se queden un ratito ahí en la conferencia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.